Welcome to your Flame Fundamentals training. Once you have rebuilt or conformed a sequence from another nonlinear editorial application, it is common practice to compare the sequence you have to a version that came from the previous software. In this video, you'll learn how to access your comparison tools, set up a version track with the offline for the comparison, deal with multi-resolution, and finally touch on a few comparing tools to check the continuity of your sequence. To access the comparison tools to perform any continuity checks, you need to call up the Viewing Settings panel through the Player Options pull-down menu. Here you will find the Compare modes, which is currently set to off. If you try choosing any of the options, nothing will happen. This is because you need to define something to compare with your sequence. In our case, there is an offline edit, which you'll now add to the active sequence. A continuity check, or online versus offline, is always performed within the sequence. To add the offline clip to the sequence without disturbing the main video tracks, you create a new video version. This is a separate video version track, and it usually sits above the existing edit. Now navigate to the beginning of the sequence and ensure Snap is enabled. Take your offline clip from the media panel and position it over the new version track. If your offline clip also has audio, you may want to lock the audio tracks to prevent any original audio from being overwritten by drag and drop editing. Now what you see in the player is known as the primary track, and this is indicated by the P symbol. This is currently the conformed sequence. To compare the offline on the second version track to the main conform, you right-click on the new version track and set it as the secondary track. You could also do this in the Compare mode controls using the pull-down menu. The secondary track is indicated by the S symbol. Once this is done, you're ready to compare the two tracks. Go back to the Compare mode controls and look at some of the options using the pull-down menu. As an extra bonus, any video track in the sequence can be assigned as the primary or secondary track. This lets you view the different tracks in the sequence at the same time, and this could be used for a whole range of comparison workflows. And finally, if you name any of your video or version tracks, the names will appear in the Compare mode menus, making it even easier to assign the primary and secondary video tracks. When performing a continuity check, it can happen that the supplied offline clip may be a different resolution to the conformed sequence. This is not a problem for Flame, as it handles multiple resolutions quite painlessly. However, if you want to resize the offline to match the sequence, you need to select the offline segment and choose the Resize Timeline Effects. Using the Resizing menu, change the option to Crop Edges. So the resolution now matches the sequence, and this makes the continuity check easier to work with. When comparing one version track to another, you can still scrub the timeline or press play. All your editorial tools are still functioning, and you can compare timings, matching frames, and general creative intent. Now there are multiple compare modes, and each has various adjustments depending on what it does. For example, when using a compare mode like Blend, you can adjust the mix between the images with the slider. As a tip, if you press Shift-T and drag on the image, you can interactively adjust the blend mix and keep your eyes focused on the player. The Shift-T keyboard shortcut will also work in other compare modes for general adjustments. For example, switching to the grid, you can change the size of the blocks using the sliders, or interactively with Shift-T. The side-by-side mode does not need any controls, as it just puts one version next to the other. And finally, You have the split compare modes, where you can move the split bar on the player. So you can drag the bar around, and you can also hide the blue line if it gets in the way. All compare modes can be reset to their default positions by pressing the reset button under the compare modes. If you have completed the continuity check and no longer need the second version track, you can simply delete it and turn off the compare mode. More on the comparison tools when you start learning about grading in Flame. Please move on to the next video, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the Flame Learning channel. Thanks for watching.